Councilmember Harris.
Present.
Mayor Biss.
Here, we have a full complement and are prepared to do our work for the afternoon. Councilmember Nusma.
Pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statutes 120/2, I move that the City Council convene into executive session to discuss agenda items regarding self-evaluation, practices and procedures, professional ethics when a meeting with a representative of a statewide association of which the public body is a member. This agenda item is a permitted subject to be considered in executive session as enumerated under the Open Meetings Act as set forth in 5 ILCS 120/2 C16.
Second.
Councilmember Nusma moves the City Council resolve itself into an executive session for the reason just read. Councilmember Iles, upon significant arm twisting, seconds the motion. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Iles.
Yes.
That was a yes. Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferton.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hedakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the City Council resolves itself into executive session to begin immediately at 3:05 p.m. in the Council Library. Good evening. The June 9th meeting of the Evanston City Council will reconvene. I'm sure all of you remember vividly how it began so many hours ago. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Iles.
Here.
Councilmember Nusma.
Here.
Councilmember Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Sufferton.
Here.
Councilmember Davis will be here shortly. Councilmember Rogers.
Here.
Councilmember Hedakaris.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Present.
Mayor Biss.
Here.
Councilmember Davis.
We are all here and prepared to do our work for the evening. The next item on our agenda is my public announcements and proclamations, of which there are 4. The first is National Crown Act Day. Whereas the Crown Act stands for creating a respectful and open world for natural hair, a piece of legislation aimed at addressing and eliminating race-based hair discrimination in the workplace, schools, and public places. And whereas the Crown Act prohibits discrimination based on hair texture and hairstyles that are typically associated with race, including braids, locks, twists, mantua knots, and other protective styles that are commonly worn by Black individuals. The Crown Act emphasizes the need for legal protection for these hairstyles, which have been historically stigmatized or deemed, quote, unprofessional. And whereas the Crown Act was first adopted and passed as a law by California in 2019, as of early 2025, 27 states, including Illinois, Louisiana, Virginia, New York, and Washington, D.C., have adopted the Crown Act or similar legislation to protect against hair-based discrimination. And whereas the Crown Act is important because it addresses a long-standing issue of racial bias related to hair texture and styling. Historically, individuals with Afro-textured hair or protective hairstyles have faced discrimination. This bias can have an effect on a person's opportunities, success, and social acceptance. In many cases, people have been asked to change their natural hair to conform to Eurocentric standards of beauty. And whereas the Crown Act contributes to a broader movement toward social justice and equality, which recognizes the value of cultural diversity and pushes back against long-held prejudices, it underscores the right for people to express themselves authentically through appearance. And whereas the Crown Act helps combat institutional racism and discrimination, fostering a more inclusive and diverse environment for all people, now therefore I do hereby proclaim July 3rd, 2025 as National Crown Act Day in the city of Evanston and encourage all residents to participate in the program on Sunday, June 29th from 1 to 5:30 p.m. at the Fleetwood Jourdain Community Center. And I know we have folks here this evening to receive the proclamation, and so I would ask you to come forward, and Councilmember Harris and I will join you.
Yeah, photobomb. Photobomb away.
I'm not done yet. Oh, all right. Are you good?
I just said thank you.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Biss and Councilman Harris for this, and the City of Evanston for recognizing the Crown Day and this proclamation. This proclamation affirms the dignity, cultural identity, and visibility of Black people by declaring our natural hair and cultural styles worthy of protection in workplaces, schools, and public spaces. In Evanston and across the country, this visibility helps normalize what long has been marginalized. And with normalization, we build a stronger community rooted in belonging, equity, and respect. And that's what Evanston is all about. So thank you.
Next, we have Pollinator Week. Whereas a pollinator is any creature that moves pollen from one flower to another, facilitating fertilization and allowing the flowering plant to produce fruit, seeds, and young plants. So just to be clear, I'm looking at all of you. And whereas 3/4 of flowering plants require animal or insect pollination to reproduce, and pollinators are essential to the production of 35% of the world's food. And whereas human beings, animals, insects, and plants are interdependent, and pollinators face many challenges due to human activities, habitat loss, and expanding urban development. And whereas through natural area stewardship, reduction of pesticides, and planting native flowering plant species, including dedicated efforts from many hardworking stewardship groups and city employees, we can support and contribute to the well-being of pollinators. And whereas the City of Evanston has taken the Mayor's Monarch Pledge and recognizes the importance of pollinators and the responsibility to foster environments that support their survival. And whereas the City of Evanston has adopted a low mow May ordinance to increase pollinator access to food sources and has included pollinator protection in the Climate Action and Resiliency Plan. And whereas Pollinator Week is not only a week to foster appreciation for pollinators, but also a call to action. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim June 16th through 22nd, 2025 as Pollinator Week in Evanston and urge all residents to celebrate this observance and to support efforts to protect and conserve pollinators and their habitats. And I believe we also have folks here this evening to receive this proclamation. So if you would come forward, please.
Closer. Closer. Yeah, there you go. That's good.
And maybe you can stand a little closer. Yes, thank you, perfect.
Okay, yeah.
All right, you go first.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last two proclamations are not, there's not a person here to receive them, but they're commemorating important observances that are both occurring this month and that have a number of community events associated with them. So I want to read them and encourage community members to participate in the various community events that are ongoing throughout the month of June. First of all, LGBTQ Pride Month. Whereas the city of Evanston is a welcoming community committed to equality for all residents. And whereas 56 years ago, in June of 1969, patrons and supporters of the Stonewall Inn in New York City staged an uprising to resist harassment and discriminatory laws and practices against the LGBTQ community, those riots and protests marked the beginning of the modern LGBTQ movement. And whereas the city of Evanston is dedicated to fostering acceptance of all its residents and preventing discrimination and bullying based on sexual orientation and gender identity. And whereas the city of Evanston is strengthened by the rich diversity of ethnic, cultural, racial, gender, and sexual identities of its residents, all of which contribute to the vibrant character of our city. And whereas nationwide, 4 out of 10 LGBTQ youth say the community in which they live is not accepting of LGBTQ people, and LGBTQ youth are twice as likely as their peers to be physically assaulted. And whereas it is imperative that young people of the city of Evanston, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity, feel valued, safe, empowered, and supported by their peers, educators, and community leaders. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim June 2025 as LGBTQ Pride Month in the city of Evanston and encourage all people to recognize the enduring efforts and ongoing contributions of the LGBTQ community within our city. I appreciate the applause, which has allowed me to soldier through a computer glitch up here. If y'all had clapped a little more, I wouldn't have had to say that. No, you're done. It's fine now. And now recognizing Evanston's real independence / freedom day, Juneteenth. Whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring enslaved people in Confederate territory free, paving the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas word about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed some 2.5 years to June 19th, 1865, in reaching authorities and African Americans in the South and Southwestern United States. And whereas Emancipation Day observations are held on different days in different states in the South and Southwest and in other parts of the nation. And whereas June 19th has a special meaning to African Americans and is called Juneteenth, combining the words June and 19th, and has been celebrated by the African American community for over 150 years. And whereas the annual Juneteenth celebration in the city of Evanston will take place on Saturday, June 21st, with a parade beginning at 11 a.m. from Dempster and Dodge to Ingram Park, and with celebrations taking place from noon to 4 p.m. in Ingram Park. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2025 as Juneteenth Day in the city of Evanston and urge all citizens to become more aware of the significance of this celebration in African American history and in the heritage of our nation and our city. That concludes my announcements and proclamations. The next item on the agenda is the city manager's public announcements.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of council, Clerk Mendoza. It's hard to believe that 4th of July is less than a month away. With that, I'd like to introduce our friends from the 4th of July Association who would like to make a few remarks.
Good evening and thank you, Manager, Mayor, City Council, elected officials, citizens, friends, and neighbors. My name's Tracy Alden. I'm the president of the Evanston 4th of July Association. I have with me Hillary Bean and Bruce Bomberger, who will speak briefly after me. But we have laid some items out for you, our, paraphernalia that is being produced. But I just did want to say that freedom is important. I mean, we've just made proclamations to 4 different groups that require and established and love the freedom that comes with either hairstyle or upholding the rights for, birds, bees, and pollination, Juneteenth, and Pride. And those things are all possible because independence in this country happened 250 years ago. Or next year it'll be 250. This will be 249 years. And that is what we represent. We represent the ideals, the idea. And we have been part of the celebration at Evanston, not me personally, but for 100 years, this association has taken place and taken the lead on celebrating Independence Day. It is a community wide event, and it's highlighted with morning games and a fun run and a parade and a fireworks at night and a concert. But what it does, those are the activities that take place, but there's meaning behind all that. There's benefits, there's health benefits, getting people out, social benefits, getting people to belong and connect. There's economic benefits, there's people who sell things and buy things. There's environmental benefits, people getting outside. This is a tree city, it helps make Evanston a stronger community. There's building relationships, good faith and trust, neighborhoods. We were talking about neighbors in the previous meeting, how people get along, community and communication benefits. So what the 4th of July Association represents is not just one day of fun and games, which it is, but also the strength of what this community has. And that is bringing the people together, and for a tradition for 100 years. Our theme this year is Truth Guides, Justice Unites, Kindness Heals, and it's on the information that's before you. This year we have 4 grand marshals that represent these ideals. You'll be hearing more about them through press releases and in our publications. But these grand marshals have lived in Evanston and embody these ideals. And our board of volunteers, we are a volunteer organization, and working closely with the city staff, make all this happen. And the day truly does represent and reflect the values of the city of Evanston. And we thank you for your continued support. And now I'd like to introduce Hillary Bean, who is our parade director, who will take a moment to fill you in on a couple of other details, unless there are any questions.
Let's have the full presentation first, and then we'll do questions.
Sir.
Hello, did everyone including Clerk Mendoza and everybody get posters and pins and everything?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. So Hillary Bean, parade director, program book editor, treasurer, trustee, and lots of plates in the air this time of year. So I'm here to talk about the parade. Registration closes tomorrow. And I am asking that if any of you are able to reach out to your listservs and, hey, if you want to be in the parade, today's your last day kind of thing, it would be great. We're missing a lot of usuals, and people start coming late, and then they're not in the program, and then, all that stuff. So, also, we're looking for parade marshals, and that would be another fabulous thing to go out on an email listserv to your constituents. And we pull it out of a hat every year. We need more than parade marshals. And I'm probably going over my mandate, but the parade is working up. We'll have some great entertainment this year. Might even squeeze in another performance group. I got something on today. See about our budget. And we're doing well. We need help getting word out there because there's a limit to how much we can mail out and how much people respond to in the mail. And ergo, I'm asking for your help, if at all possible. And if we don't make it for the parade registration, parade marshals, seriously, should be at least 17, 18 years old. Otherwise, they can't really have the authority to talk to the people they need to talk to. Welcome, by the way, to the new council members. Those of us who've been around for a while. Sorry about that. And I guess that's it until we get to the questions. Thank you. Bruce Baumberger.
Good evening. I'm Bruce Baumberger. This evening I'm here as trustee emeritus of the Evanston 4th of July Association. And for the benefit of those of you who may not have been around our celebration too many years, you may wonder, how does it all come together? I'm going to talk a little bit about the financial history and our current status financially. For many years, from the beginning of this organization back in 1922, we enjoyed twilight shows, fireworks at Dyke Stadium. That was probably starting in 1926 when the stadium was built, and that ran through 1979. The financial legacy that we enjoy is a result of the Twilight Show parade in 1957. That's the year that Walt Disney and the Mouseketeers came to Evanston in full force. The stadium was packed. The revenue obviously was outstanding. That money was invested wisely and has benefited us ever since. That combined with the fact that up until 1979, we had a twilight show and fireworks in Dyke Stadium, kept our investment portfolio looking pretty good. But we realized that we were sponsoring an exclusive event, not an inclusive event, requiring people to buy tickets to come into the stadium on the 4th of July. It was not really too popular. So we moved our evening activities down to the lakefront to be inclusive of all Evanston and other residents in the area. So we've been on the lakefront with a concert and fireworks starting in 1980. And at that time, we started community-wide fundraising, a mailing going out to everyone in Evanston, plus Evanston-Skokie. All of you hopefully received your solicitation sometime in the last week or so. That's resulted in a reasonable level of contributions, but not enough to cover the cost of the celebration. So we have been gradually, in fact, more than gradually, using our endowment for the last probably 25, 30 years. And as you know from personal investing, if you start eating into your investments, after a while, you have issues. And one of the factors we're dealing with financially is that the community views this celebration as being sponsored by the city. We have an absolutely fantastic partnership with the city, great support from police, fire, public works, parks and recreation. But for the average person on the street, they think of this as being a city event paid for by tax dollars. That's not the case. We have obviously a lot of in-kind services, but all of the cost of the parade, the fireworks concert, all that comes out of our endowment plus contributions. I went back through our 990s over the last probably 25 or 30 years. I'm not going to go through every one of those in detail for you, but just a couple of points. The 990 filed in 2001 showed that we had a little over $1 million in assets. In 2011, that was down to $461,000. 2022, down to $441,000. Through the pandemic years, we did do pretty well because we were not spending a lot of money on parade and fireworks. But by the time we got to 2024, the most recent year, 990 is on file, we're at $377,000. So we're not going out of business soon, but if we continue at this pace, we are going to be out of money. And that is a community-wide issue, which we are encouraging people to dig deep with contributions. At some point, we may come back and say we need some tax dollars for support. When you look at other communities around Evanston, their celebrations are paid for by the villages, park districts, by government agencies, not by a 501c3. So that's where we are financially. Be happy to answer any questions now or later.
If not, I just want to say thank you so much for your hard work and dedication. It's a spectacular celebration, and we're so proud of the work that you all do.
Well, thank you very much. It's a team effort, and as Bruce said, the cooperation between the city and our association is, we're perfect. And we hope to see you all out there, and everyone.
I did forget something important.
You forgot something important.
Of course I did.
What, real quick?
Registration.
Oh, registration for,
For these all nice people.
oh, right.
I've heard-
I think we talked to the manager about that.
Well, no, but he's not, no. I need, if any of you would like to follow in tradition and be in the parade as part of the city council, not as a political entry, please see Luke. He will help facilitate that all tomorrow, okay? Anybody who's interested in a political entry, don't talk to Luke, enter yourself in your own if you're going to do it. Otherwise, if you are here as an employee of the city, please do speak to Luke. He will facilitate that. Thank you.
Yeah, parade registration ends tomorrow officially. We want to make sure everyone gets in who wants to get in. Thank you. Unless there are any questions, comments, otherwise, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of your work.
And that completes my report.
The next item on the agenda is communications from the city clerk.
I have no communications today. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we come to public comment. This evening, there are just over 20 people signed up, so everyone will be given 2¼ minutes. We begin, as always, with those who signed up in person to speak in person, beginning with Debbie Kyer, followed by Riley Oates, and then Ray Friedman. Is Debbie here? If not, we'll move ahead with Riley Oates, who will be followed by Ray Friedman, and then Robert Keating.
Good evening. My name is Riley Oates. I work with the United States Small Business Administration in the Office of Disaster Recovery and Resiliency. We are in town due to the Skokie water main break, which occurred from February 14th to February 16th. I just wanted to come and make sure that everybody is aware of the program which we are providing. It is an economic injury disaster loan. It covers working capital for ordinary and necessary financial expenses incurred by businesses affected by the water main break. We have a little bit different credit check than most traditional banks. We are providing rates right now as low as 4% for small businesses, 3.625% for nonprofits. Our loan terms are 30 years. The first year is interest-free, no payments. You can get a maximum loan of $2 million. You can't refinance any existing debts with these loans. However, you can get this loan before your insurance settles. I have provided some contact information to some of the council members, and I'll also provide this information to the city clerk to disperse. If you have any questions, I will be around after this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Ray Friedman, who will be followed by Robert Keating, and then Dan Lev.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to talk about transparency and accountability, but I'm not. I'd like to talk about bills A1 for $10,857,000. Why is that? I'd like to talk about $38 million in FB1. Where's that from and where's it going and when? What I need to talk about is something I should have talked about last council meeting. I didn't realize my neighbors were going to be here. On May 3rd, there was a shooting, and I was home, and 8 o'clock I jumped out of my seat when I heard 5 gunshots. Sound like it was outside my door. Within 2 minutes, Evanston police were, they had the block surrounded up and down the street. I did get a warning from 2nd Ward Alderman, Chrissy, thank you, I appreciate it. She said there's police activity and stay in the house. Great job by Evanston Police Department. And the shooting occurred around 8 o'clock. By a couple hours later, there was a loudspeaker at about 11 o'clock in the middle of the street saying, "Come out with your hands up." I thought I was on a live TV show. At 3:30, 4 o'clock, police are still there on the block. I woke up about 9 a.m. and opened my door and found yellow police tape around the west half of my block. You couldn't go west in the street or the alley. So really what I want to say is thank you to the Evanston Police Department. Great job. Shanita Stewart. As far as I know, nobody was hurt or injured. And I'm watching the news over the weekend, and Evanston ER is under lockdown. Somebody came in, I read, with 2 handguns, not one, in the ER. It's crazy. So this is totally unacceptable. I sincerely hope that people can get the help they need before things escalate to these extremes. We all need to get along. Let's figure it out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Robert Keating, who will be followed by Dan Love, and then Tina Payton.
Thank you. I live on Main Street and walk past the 801 building frequently. Not only is it dangerous, but it's a missed opportunity for a mixed-use building in a prime location near transit and local amenities. If the city has site control, we can be sure to get a maximum number of affordable units in an extremely desirable and walkable neighborhood and get more customers for our businesses. Affordable housing is a top priority of our city, and great projects like Lot 1 nearby show what can be accomplished, especially when the city is in control and it's not left up to the private market. I want a more vibrant and active Main Street and to welcome more neighbors to the community, so I ask for this to be supported. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Dan Love, who will be followed by Tina Payton and then Jackson Paller.
Good evening. I also want to speak about 801 Main Street. I think it is a great opportunity to put affordable housing in a dense transit area of Evanston. The city owning the property and the adjacent lot has the opportunity, as Councilman pardon my butchering of the name, said earlier during I believe the Public Works Committee, that the city buying the lot would allow the city to control the destiny of the property and to have a better say in what goes there. The ability of the city to buy and then go to the developer and say basically pre-do the work for a zoning approval about what can be built there can make the entire process of development go much more smoothly. I am slightly concerned with the recommendation that was adopted at the committee earlier that the city would have to purchase the property, or I believe within 6 months, either execute an RFP or RFQ or sell the property and put it to the open market. Because if it's going to be a certain type of affordable housing that's using LIHTC credits or a kind of federal tax credit, that process can take years for the credits by the developer to come to fruition. So while I want the city to move quickly to purchase the property and then develop the property, I hope a arbitrary time limit does not result in a suboptimal outcome coming for the property. But overall, I definitely recommend the city purchase the property, use it to put it to higher and better uses. I think this is an amazing opportunity to put affordable housing in the right areas of Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Tina Payton, who will be followed by Jackson Paller and then Roy Zhu.
Good evening. I'm Tina Payton. I'm here to talk about 801 and 809 Main. My family has owned a property a half a block from this location for 71 years. To me, when you have a purchase, the city is planning on purchasing property here in Evanston, it should be more than a mention at a meeting. We should get notes like this to notify residents within 500 feet what the city is planning on doing. The neighbors should have say of what's going to happen. From the earlier meeting, it looked like from Paul Zomlazak, Sarah Flax, and the alderman, looks like you already had a plan on what you wanted to do with the building without community input. This building is purchased for $735,000, and you keep rewarding landlords who have code violations and condemned buildings, as you did at Emerson and Jackson. Look, here it is now, years later, still vacant. Also, you claimed that you were going to do something on South Boulevard. Still haven't done anything with that years later. Residents should have say on what goes on. Just like here at 909 Davis, no public input. You are supposed to represent us, the citizens, then we should be discussing the matter before you sit here and put the citizens' money out on the table and we don't have any say what happens. Also, there was 2 black businesses, the hair salon and nail salon. Did they receive relocation money when they were told to leave? Sounds like unfair practices by the city of Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Jackson Paller, who will be followed by Roy Zhu, and then Sanjana Rajesh.
Good evening, Jackson Paller. I live in the 3rd Ward. I wanted to very briefly thank you all for the Health Data Privacy Ordinance, which I think is here for introduction only today. It's scary to see how little we can depend on the federal government to protect any of us, and that's why actions like this at both the city level and the state level are so important. The state has recently passed a number of laws to protect the sensitive health data of both patients and providers for reproductive care, gender affirming care, and the more layers of protection we can have, the better. So it's a scary time, but we're doing what needs to be done in that area. So yeah, I wanted to just thank you all for that.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Roy Zhu, who will be followed by Sanjana Rajesh.
Hello, everyone. My name is Roy Zhu, and I'm a graduating senior from Northwestern University and a second-generation Chinese-American Evanstonian who lives in the Fourth Ward. I'm speaking today because I am deeply disappointed by the city's lack of adequate response to the racist incident of harassment that occurred at Table to Sticks 3 weeks ago. Anti-Blackness is a deeply rooted problem in Asian American communities across the country, and we as a city have failed to properly prepare ourselves to deal with the systemic nature of this issue. Despite branding itself as a city of diversity founded on liberal values, Evanston has proven that it is unwilling to actually effect transformative change when it comes to racial injustice. Evanston is a city that lifts itself up through performative measures like passing limited reparations for Black homeowners while refusing to help low-income Black and brown tenants from Wesley Avenue stay in their homes, among other things. Jonathan Newsma, your lackluster commitment to dialogue and discussion at the protest that occurred outside Table to Sticks belies the fact that you are far more concerned with making Evanston friendly for businesses and developers from outside the city than for people who have lived here for generations. Daniel Biss, your political ambitions in pursuing higher office have alienated you from the community who elected you to be a progressive and intelligent leader. Your push to upzone the city and aid Northwestern in building a wasteful new stadium show that you have no real desire to decrease the gap between rich and poor in Evanston. Our communities and businesses are siloed, and we only ever interact with each other when white folks come between us. What I'm saying is, for the most part, communities of color in Evanston operate on a wheel and spoke model, where white folks are centered and we exist on separate spokes that rarely, if ever, come into contact with each other. Case in point, people of color in Evanston have long experienced discrimination at Cozy Noodle, a Thai restaurant. There have been dozens and dozens of accounts of Cozy Noodle's owners refusing service or delaying service to Black and disabled people. Yet when Cozy Noodle was about to shut down, both Daniel Biss and Jonathan Newsma supported the owners in helping keep the business alive and moving it to the Fourth Ward. As Asian Evanstonians in solidarity with Black and brown folks, we demand that the city establish guidelines for revoking business licenses from owners who repeatedly violate community standards and release a statement condemning anti-Blackness in Evanston, naming what happened at Table to Sticks as an incident of anti-Black violence.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Sanjana Rajesh.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sanjana, and I'm a senior at Northwestern, majoring in Asian American Studies and Legal Studies, and I live in the First Ward. So I'm speaking here today because I wanted to draw attention to what I see as pervasive anti-Blackness in Evanston. I think it's important that I use my voice as a South Asian American to say this because my community is often complicit in anti-Blackness and is often pitted against Black communities, both willingly and unwillingly. What I'm speaking about here today has been informed by my conversations with Black community members and longtime residents. My impetus for being here was the recent anti-Black incident at Table to Sticks, where Kenny Cho chased down and harassed a young Black person for not tipping enough. I do not want to spend too much time explaining why this was anti-Black. The fact that Cho felt comfortable doing this to a young Black man who had a long-standing relationship with the business and not anyone else speaks for itself. And while my presence here today was sparked by the incident, it is not also about larger issues. This is not to absolve Chow of blame, but to make my speech relevant to all of you here today. The young man who was harassed was housing insecure, underscoring the lack of affordable housing in Evanston and rising costs that are pushing out the very people we want to be here. That it was even a thought to harass him is because of the way the Evanston Police Department over-polices and surveils Black communities. Pervasive anti-Blackness is also seen in the experiences of Black Evanston employees who released a report detailing racism they faced in 2022, and more recently, how Black public works employees have experienced racism from their white managers. I feel that all of these instances show how anti-Blackness has been swept under the rug. No one from the City Council released a statement condemning Chow's actions, and no one has helped support any kind of accountability process, however that may look. And again, this is not just about one incident. City staff and many City Council members refuse to support property tax relief through the Circuit Breaker program, or even help research into tax relief for longtime residents, most of whom are elderly and Black. Why isn't Mayor Daniel Biss supporting this important policy? To anyone listening, I encourage you to think about the ways in which you might make an easy verbal commitment to diversity, but refuse to provide the material support that is actually required to maintain it. Are you opposed to affordable housing in your neighborhood because you're afraid it will bring your cherished property values down? Do you want less public transit? Do you hate the idea of reparations? Do you not understand why people called Kenny Cho's actions racist? All of these are rooted in anti-Blackness, and it's time that residents and people in power check their own biases and actually take the action that is required to dismantle racism. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concludes the list of people who signed up in person to speak in person. We now move to those who signed up online to speak in person, beginning with Scott Roberts, followed by Katie Dunn.
Hello, council members. I'm Scott Roberts. I live in the 3rd Ward. I first want to just speak in support of fellow 3rd Ward member Jennifer Gear for the Environment Board. But mainly I'm here to talk about 801 Main. I spoke at the earlier, the Public Works Committee, which I'm very happy did approve that proposal moving forward. This is a property which is very dangerous, unattractive, brings down that entire neighborhood, and it is not generating nearly no income for the city. At that meeting, we heard from the economic development manager that the estimate that it would bring in $350,000 in taxes if developed. So I think that it's already pretty clear that this should be done, that this should be bought and then developed into a unit which could hold both businesses and also affordable housing on the space. The one comment I want to add in addition following that meeting, Councilmember Davis made an amendment to put a 6-month restriction that it had to be sold by that point. I'm not sure, but I thought that at first you brought up 12 months first earlier on and then shortened that to 6 months. And I think that 12 months is a good compromise number, because I think 6 months, from what we heard from staff, is that it was really kind of on the edge of things, and that I think 12 months is a good amount where we're still protecting it from being held by the city for a long time, but also it allows appropriate amount of time for bids and also public feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Katie Dunn.
Hi, My name's Katie Dunn. I'm a resident of the 6th Ward. I live right near the intersection of Harrison and Ewing, and I'm here today to ask you, on behalf of my family and also 30 of our neighbors who signed a petition, to add a stop sign, a four-way stop at the intersection of Harrison and Ewing. I'll say that we recognize that a stop sign is not a cure-all. It's not even really appropriate at every residential intersection. But this is a uniquely dangerous intersection, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of color before you make your decision on the stop sign. So we live very close to Central Street. There's a lot of commercial activity there, which we love. That's why we bought the house. There's, Hardigan's Ice Cream. Our kids go to Little Green Tree House. There's a Orange Theory. There's a physical therapy studio. There's a yoga studio. There's a lot going on right there. And as a result, there's significant overflow parking on Ewing Street. In fact, on most weekdays, it's bumper to bumper on Ewing, which makes it really a blind intersection if you're trying to cross Ewing on Harrison Street. I mean, you really you have to inch your car out and try to crane your neck to see if a car is coming south on Ewing Street. I have to kind of hold my kids behind me and look to see if there's a car coming. Just in the last few months, my husband and I have seen multiple near accidents, like screeching tire near accidents. One of the little girls actually who helped us get petitions signed for this was personally motivated because she had almost been hit by a car a few weeks earlier, this little 9-year-old. And so she was like, what can I do to help? It's so dangerous. I was walking my dog and I almost got hit by a car. So, this is not an ask for convenience. We're not trying to make it slightly easier for us to cross the street there. It really is a safety concern. So we're asking you to make this very small change that we think will have a meaningful impact on the safety of our neighborhood. So thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the in-person portion of this evening's public comment. And we now move to a category that I think is new, which is those who signed up in person to speak online. And that is Natisha Waldron. Ms. Waldron, are you able to unmute? All right, we'll come back to Ms. Waldron.
Hi, I am. I'm sorry.
There it is. Awesome.
Can
Go ahead.
you hear me?
Yep, we hear you.
Hello. So I'm here for two reasons. One, I wanted to say thank you guys for your time tonight. One of the reasons that I have joined tonight is in support of the sign for Pastor Monte Dillard. Pastor Monte Dillard Senior Way for his contribution to the Evanston community, the love, the support, and all of the community organizations that he has positively impacted, and the work that he has done here will last many years. And so there is no greater reason than to have a sign that will commemorate the impact that he has made with Connections for the Homeless, the First Church of God Christian Life Center, the fire department, the police department, and many other organizations that just cradle to career that lean on him for advice, for support, and to really rally the right people when it's time. Pastor is about unity, care, and concern for those who are overlooked and maybe don't have a voice of their own. He comes with a heart for the people. And so I wanted to speak in support of a sign. I think it will be a great honor and a great contribution to our city and on this corner, even as a beautiful school erects. So thank you. That's my contribution to that thought. I also have an action for item on the list, and I'm sure it hasn't been spoken yet, but I wanted to speak in support of the reallocation of funds for Pathways to Wellness. There has been a lot of work done on the program. We are so proud and excited to be able to positively impact the Evanston community with whole Pathways to Wellness. As you know, based on the E-Plan, we have certain areas of our community that don't quite have the equity and the access to healthcare that they need. And so we are working to bridge that gap. We are working hard with our research doctor every single Wednesday, myself, the Alderman, Director Ike, and the professionals that are hired. And so my hope is that we can get the contracts together and the funding identified so that we can pay the professionals that have worked so hard to contribute to the community. I won't in any way focus solely on my needs or my dedication to work despite contracts still kind of being up in the air, because I care sincerely and really believe in this work as a healthcare professional for over 17 years. But
Thank you very much.
it would be a great honor if you guys can help us tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We now move to those who signed up online to speak online, beginning with Christine Escobar, who will be followed by Jonathan Selden, and then Sharimer Chivanis.
Hi, my name is Christine Escobar. I am a second ward resident for the past 16 years in Evanston. I wanted to comment today because I want to start with the fact that over a month ago in April, at the end of April, a young black man was chased down the street in broad daylight and threatened with bodily harm. And this understandably became a huge outrage online because the restaurant owner was out of line, and the young man just simply enjoyed a meal at his restaurant. Now, that incident triggered a huge demonstration by a large number of Evansonians. But since that time, we haven't heard anything from the city. We had never heard anything from the city regarding it. And there's just been crickets. And it's just really strange that an incident like that can happen in Evanston when earlier in the evening we're hearing all of these proclamations about, racial justice and racial unity and other types of factors that play into our community and what we're supposed to be about in Evanston. But there is absolutely nothing from the mayor, absolutely nothing from council about this incident. And what are we doing to make sure that this doesn't happen again? How are we bringing communities together to talk about these kinds of things, these kinds of incidents? Like the previous commenter, Roy said, this is not an isolated incident. This has happened before at other restaurants in Evanston, this type of anti-Blackness. And it's just silence. It's silence. And if we don't talk about it, then it doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist, then it's not a reality. If this is the kind of thing is that the ultimate goal? Is that the ultimate goal, that we have a homogeneous perspective on race? In this time right now, nationally, we're seeing this massive pushback against people who are trying to divide us and villainize various racial groups, ethnic groups.
Thank you very much.
Evanston needs to come together and unify, not divide, and actually reach out to other communities, get them together, get them talking, prevent something like this from happening.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Jonathan Selden, who I believe is not in the Zoom. Is that correct, Luke? All right. In that case, the next speaker is Sharimer Chivanis, who will be followed by Meg Welch, and then Mary Rosinski.
Good evening, Mayor Biss and City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to comment virtually first. My name is Sharimer Chivanis. I appreciate the correct pronunciation, Mayor. I'm the Associate Director of Advocacy with Joining Forces for Affordable Housing in the 4th Ward. I'm here tonight to voice our support of this resolution and the purchase of 801 809 Main Street. We see great promise in the potential to create a mixed income development at this site, one that not only advances our shared housing goals, but also reflects the values and vision that are taking shape through Envision Evanston 2045. The location is highly accessible, is close to transit, and well suited for a project of this kind. And so we urge you to vote in favor of this resolution and help move forward a development that centers community needs and expands housing opportunity in Evanston. Thank you for your leadership and your continued commitment to housing justice.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Meg Welch, who will be followed by Mary Rosinski. Ms. Welch, are you able to unmute?
I thought someone was going to unmute me. Regarding 801 Main, there's no urgency to buy this property, and I support housing justice also. Has this property been listed for the $700K and change the city is prepared to purchase it for? How long has it been on the market? If we do not know this information, that it would not sell without using TIF funds that could instead be used to make up the gap in federal funding to finance a land trust, then let's wait. It's been said the owner has not budged on moving the property, but has this process played out fully? Are we rewarding negligence and not maintaining property? Have we fined and let the legal process play out? I'd like to really know, because I walk by the property daily also on the way to the Metro. Please name what the immediate hazards are in terms of dangers to passerby. It may be structurally unsound to inhabit, but it's no danger to neighbors, at least not that I can see. We should have a strategic housing plan before purchasing more properties. I've heard it said that the reason to buy it is because the city will have control of how the property is used, and we can front end what we want on height, et cetera. The city already has control over what goes in this parcel. If the city ends up selling to a private developer who will include some affordable housing units, which would likely result from a private sale also, then what is the point of the city buying it? If the city does buy it for purported reasons of control, I really hope creative use will be made of it for permanent affordable housing, like a mixed income land trust partially financed by TIF funds, so we can show some real leadership in this state for making affordable housing, so we can actually be the progressive leader we brag about being, and some of us are running campaigns on. So let's be creative. Let's not just, it's available, let's buy it. Let's think a little more big picture here. And the what's going to happen to it after we buy it is really just too vague for some of us to be comfortable with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mary Rosinski.
Hi, and thank you very much. I did speak at Public Works, but after listening to the discussion, I just wanted to add on a few things. First of all, I'll say Tina Payden and Meg made so much sense about the 801 Main. I think a lot of us are very much in favor of a affordable housing, mixed use, mixed income in perpetuity that is done by a nonprofit and stays in the hands of Evanston residents. That I'm pretty sure both those people agree with also, as do many others. I am concerned that we don't seem to have a policy on how we purchase property. Things are talked about in executive session, and then that becomes policy, which is the most non-transparent thing you can do, because public should be informed. If we had a policy, how we're going to acquire property, how we're going to move forward with an affordable housing project and land trust, I think we would be in a lot better position. I had done a FOIA on the 801 because I was curious why we didn't have fines or what's been going on. It was just released, ironically, about an hour ago. And I'm very concerned because we have options as a city and under the Illinois state law to deal with property owners who do not want to abide. And we seem to cave and they get off scot-free while good residents in this town get fined and pay their fines for small infractions. But I don't see one fine in this FOIA. I see one report. I see four citations without any information back from 2022. Then there's nothing all the way up until the 24th of June last year. And then that's only pictures. And we have a problem. Why aren't they being fined under the dangerous buildings ordinance? Why are we not taking some of the other things that we can do, receivership, court order, all that, to force them to the table to preserve their buildings? Because I don't want vacant buildings either. And But if we let people do that, then and then pay them top dollar for their property, we only perpetuate and reward a bad situation. So I also haven't been able to see any record where this was on the market. It's open to the open commercial market. And I would fail to believe that this belief that we have to buy now because it's such a good deal. I mean,
Thank you very much.
I guess have a plan to buy for affordable housing and you commit to affordable housing, then that could be good. But let's get our policies in order.
Thank you very much. This concludes public comment for the evening. We now come to the consent agenda. It's my understanding that item P2 did not make it out of committee, so must be removed from the consent agenda. Are there other items folks would like to see removed from the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, A7 was amended in committee. A11 is for introduction and action, and ED1, please.
So we have A7, A11, P2, and ED1. Anything else?
FB1.
FB1. So at this time, we have A7, A11, P2, ED1, and FB1. Are there any further removals? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would move the consent agenda as provided in our packet, minus the items that were stated, which were A7, A11, PD2, FB1, and ED1.
Second.
Councilmember Rogers moves approval of the consent agenda with the following 5 exceptions: A7, A11, PD2, ED1, and FB1. Councilmember Harris seconds. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Iles?
Yes.
Councilmember Newsma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferton?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers?
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries, and the consent agenda with the 5 items previously enumerated is passed. Now on item A11, Councilmember Sufferton, would you care to make a motion, and for the benefit of those of us who are not in A and PW, briefly describe the amendment that was already adopted?
You're talking A7, I believe.
A7.
Yes, I definitely am talking about A7.
Yeah, so I move item A7 as amended, Resolution 54R25, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the purchase of 801 to 809 Main Street. The amendment says that no consultants are to be hired, and if the property is not disposed of or an RFP or RFQ is not accepted within 6 months, then the property is to be sold on the open free market.
I will second.
Councilmember Sufferton moves adoption of Resolution 54-R-25 as amended in committee. Councilmember Newsma seconds. Councilmember Newsma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss this at committee earlier this evening. I think we've made a strong case to acquire this property and turn it to better use for the community, hopefully involving affordable housing and ideally permanently affordable housing. And as usual, I think when we come to the end of this process, most folks will be very pleased with the outcome. I am, however, concerned about the amendment that was made at committee that gave us only a 6-month deadline. We talked about that at committee. I really am uncomfortable imposing such a quick deadline. I don't want to rush through this process. I don't want to belabor it. I want to move diligently without delay. But imposing an arbitrary deadline of 6 months just doesn't strike me as the right thing to do. So I'm going to make a motion to change that 6 months to 12 months. An email should be in your inboxes already. Second.
Councilmember Newsma moves to amend Resolution 54-R-25 by replacing the number 6 with the number 12. Councilmember Harris seconds.
And I make this, with respect to my colleagues who approved this amendment in committee. I completely understand and agree with the desire to not let this drag on. I just want to make sure we're being realistic and managing expectations.
Councilmember Suffredin.
Yeah, Mr. Zalmanzak, can you do this in 6 months, or do you need 12 months? My understanding from Administration of Public Works is you said you could do this in 6.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Suffredin. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Clerk Mendoza, members of the council. I'm Paul Zalmanzak. I serve as the Economic Development Manager. Since I've last seen you, I did kind of map out a process. Frankly, 6 months, I can get back to this body to discuss, to get the authorization to negotiate the sale, but we're not, and that's what I committed to earlier. But just to be clear, we're not going to be able to come in 6 months and execute a sale. There's a difference, right? Would you like me to explain the difference, or are you understanding?
Could you explain the difference between what you said in committee and the new information that you got?
No,
since then?
Nothing's changed.
Oh, okay, so you can do this in 6 months.
But what else isn't going to get done if you have to drop everything and do this?
I understand the position. I am kind of being put into an awkward position. I can complete the tasks that gets this RFQ process back to the council by December of 2025, that the last meeting of the year. Just to be clear, that's getting the city council to authorize the sale or the negotiation of the sale of the property to whatever developer we choose through the RFQ process. So I have us coming in December for that. November, I'm coming forward with a recommendation, the developer that we would choose for the RFQ through the RFQ process. So there's a series of steps we have to take. So I'm going to come forward and say, here is the developer we're choosing. I'm going to come back at the next meeting to get authorization to negotiate the sale of the property to that developer. And then that will trigger the zoning process, because a developer is not going to build anything without zoning approval from the city of Evanston.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
They're not just going to trust that we're going to approve it. So they're going to want the zoning before they deliver that. So that final ordinance of the sale of the land to the developer would occur in August of 2026.
Okay, so the additional 6 months, what things would happen that wouldn't happen if you got 12 rather than 6? What additional things would happen?
Again, I'm not asking for additional time. I understand Councilmember believes that there might be some time that we need to build into it. I haven't had any conversations with Councilmember since I last spoke to the committee. I laid out a plan that will work for me to deliver the negotiation authorization request to the City Council in December 2025.
I have tremendous faith in you. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Would the clerk, Councilmember Burns.
So you're saying in 6 months you can, the RFP obviously will be accepted, or the RFP will be, you'll have responses way before 6 months, right? So you'll have those responses back by when?
Okay, let me make this a lot easier for everybody, including the public. I'm going to read, it'll take me like 1 minute to read through this. Do you mind,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor? Okay. We're going to close the purchase of the property on June 20th-ish. It might be June 22nd. June 22nd might be a Sunday, but that's when we close. We have to approve a contract for demolition, right? I'm coming back on June 23rd for that. And Councilmember Newsma has to create a process for community engagement. I think that's going to be July, August. It's summertime. I want to make sure we hit everybody. People go on vacation, especially in August. So we got to get to work on that. Then we issue the RFQ September. We have to wait around 30 days to make sure we reach the marketplace and we get good responses. Then let's take a little bit of time. I'm giving us a month to review those. So that gives us staff review time. So that 30 days for staff review gets us through October. Then we come to the November meeting and we recommend whichever development team that we're selecting through the RFQ process, give everybody a chance to talk, And then we come back with the required request to negotiate to get authorization to negotiate the sale of the property. That's December. January begins the PD process. It's got to go through zoning. It's going to be a PD. We've got to get the council approval in June. It takes about 6 months to go through a PD process. Hopefully we can do it faster since it's our property and we're trying to deliver on affordable housing. And then we have to publish an intent to sell the property in a local newspaper. That takes like another month. And then we get the ordinance to execute the sale in August of 26. That's a tight timeline. We can do it. If we need more time for community engagement, I'm not going to place the timeline on it. That's up to the council member who's running the
And so
engagement
one more
process.
time, in December, what would happen?
December, after we've selected, we could maybe even do this in November if we double it up. We're coming November to select a developer. We could ask at that time to get authority to negotiate the sale to that developer. It's authority to negotiate, not execute the sale. The execution of the sale happens after the zoning.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess if select and accept is the same thing, then you feel like you can do that within 6 months. You can get some. You can.
Yeah,
that we can
again,
select
that's yes,
somebody that wants to develop this. Wants to develop in within 6 months. Then is what you're saying.
As long as we get through an engagement process, yes.
Okay. I think what I'm most concerned about is not this sounds good, and I think we, especially with this property, I don't think there's going to be much controversy. It doesn't have the same history as the Jackson and Emerson and other sites do. It's not this first piece. I think we can do this within 6 months, and I think it's a good thing that we're trying to encourage a little bit of us to move quickly. I think it's if this doesn't work out for whatever reason, just this automatic, we sell, when there might be other opportunities, maybe even better opportunities, makes me uncomfortable. So I think that's the piece that I can't support. But 6 months, I can support that. It's just, I don't think we should automatically sell. I think it should come back to this body. We should kind of take a look at where we are and then decide what we want to do next. But I just automatically, moving to sell it doesn't seem strategic at all. So, that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Would the clerk please take the roll on the amendment to change 6 to 12?
Councilmember Iles?
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma? Councilmember Burns?
No.
Councilmember Sufferton?
No.
Councilmember Davis?
No.
Councilmember Rogers?
No.
Councilmember Hadakaris?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
No.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
With 4 voting in favor and 5 voting against, the motion fails. Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. I just want to say I believe that, even the maker of this motion, the original amendment, I think all of us would feel a little bit more differently if there's more specificity of this, if we had a policy that said we intend to, bring into Evanston a dozen or however many land banked, land trust homes in partnership with SEPA, knowing that it's going to be, affordable housing in perpetuity, but much of this is followed with hopefully this. So I just want to say that is, my position on this, that, there's dozens of these places every year that come up, homes that have been, buildings that have been neglected, and our policy, we don't have a policy. We're going to, if we, issue 2 violations or 3 and they don't respond, we're going to buy it. I mean, we don't have any policy that we're really following here. So that's my hesitancy with all this. Of course, we all want to see, a better establishment there. But I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Councilmember Rogers.
I kind of want to pick up off where Councilmember Kelly was. I spoke with Councilmember Newsom about this and said that I would support this particular sale if we, as a council, would enter into some sort of a discussion on what is our policy for acquiring properties. I have a property on Howard Street that was acquired with some intent and is kind of just been going through processes and things like that, but has not really moved. There's another property just down the street, which I would argue is probably in bigger neglect than 801, 809 Main. But I'm not in any eagerly moving forward on having the city acquire that through a purchase of TIF money. I would like to see what other options we have as a city. But I think it's very, very important that if we're going to be in the real estate business, that we have policies for how are we acquiring properties, what are we doing with them, and how are we disposing of them if what we ultimately are trying to do doesn't work out on that location. So I would ask all of the council to please support having a discussion on that policy, so that we aren't doing this just kind of on one-offs. Here's this property, we're going to buy this, we're going to do this. It's kind of a policy that the city has.
Councilmember Davis.
So I thought, and I'm just going to be clear, I thought that the reason this property was coming up and why we were buying it is not because we were looking at it as space for affordable housing, which I also note that it concerns me a lot that there's a lot of discourse around us assuming that we're going to put affordable housing here, but then claiming that we're going to get community input, because it sounds like we've already decided what we're going to have there. And that's fine, but just be consistent. But going back to my main point, we're buying this property not because we're in the business of buying property, but because we have a slumlord, effectively, who is not maintaining this property. It's been condemned, and we can't get them to do anything to get it in compliance, and this was one of the best options that we had. I don't really think that we as a policy are going to, well, I would not be supporting this in particular if it were not for the fact that the building was in such disrepair. So, and obviously we all have different motivations, but I thought I'd put that out there.
Would the clerk please take the roll on the resolution which has not, Councilmember.
Yeah, sorry.
So at this time, no one is asking to speak for a first time. So we go back to Councilmember Burns with 3 minutes left.
I was going to say I'm working on a motion, so I thought there were more people in line. So I'm working on it now. Stand at ease. Or whatever you decide is best.
What I would decide is best is for you to say what it is and see if there's a second before we stand at ease.
I mentioned it already. I think, I think I'm cool with 6 months, but if we can get maybe another month in there, and then just the automatic selling of the property is possible based on where the market is, that we would get less than we paid for. It doesn't make sense to me. So I'm going to add a month or two. I think 12 months is probably not needed. I mean, we just heard from the person that's going to be in charge of it that he feels like as long as the community engagement can happen, and I don't know if that timeline is what makes you uncomfortable.
So I think you've painted a picture a little bit. Does someone intend to second the motion based on what you understand it to be so far?
I'll second it.
All right, so we'll stand at ease while Councilmember Burns puts the motion in writing, and then we'll return.
Can I continue with my time now? Now that we know we have a second, because I have other questions for Councilmember Newsom as I work on this.
Sure.
Thank you.
So we'll go back to Councilmember Burns, who is still speaking when you began with 3 minutes left.
Yes, sir. Just trying to see, there was I think 2 months for community engagement. Is that what you had? Is that?
I'm targeting the July ward meeting, which would be
okay.
Which would be July 2nd. 1st, let me just check my calendar. That would be July 1st. Not a great time for public engagement, nor is August following. So I'll do an online survey as well as discussion at a ward meeting. So I can, 2 months is fine, is acceptable. I don't need to drag it on. I can keep talking, though, if you need some more time, but Councilmember Burns.
No, I think I have the second, so I think I'm good.
All right.
And you're not. I don't think people are going to want to discuss it until they see it. So I think we're going to hang out until you've written it.
Yeah.
And another change, as long as you're still typing, Councilmember Burns, that might make this just a little bit more reasonable is if we impose the 6-month deadline on those events which we as a city can control, which is the public engagement, drafting and releasing the RFQ. If we impose a 6-month deadline to release the RFQ, then we're not imposing a deadline that's subject to how long it takes the marketplace to respond. And if we don't get any good responses that first round, then what happens? So that's another way of making this even better. Let me put it that way.
This is a weird, yeah, okay, need a little bit more time. This is the way this was written. Okay, so no, it's not to be higher.
I can keep talking about Main Street.
I mean, let's just pause for a second. Councilmember Burns, how, are we looking at like 2 minutes or are we looking at like 10 minutes?
No, definitely not 10 minutes. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to.
Does that mean 20?
So I'm not going to do what Councilmember Newsom is saying, but I'm trying to remember what the concerns were.
The reason I'm asking
probably
is
a minute.
what? Okay.
Another minute or two should be fine.
All right, we'll just stand at ease and allow the writing process to continue.
So we finished the streetscape project on Main, with the exception of trees that are now just being planted. I think we might be done with the spring tree planting. Coming at some point is festoon lighting across Main Street. Do we have a date on that? So maybe a little bit longer if Mr. Zamelzak is going to have to be paying attention to the 801 Main Street project. Main Street community building is going to happen, help me with the date, June 21st, I think. The Main Street Festival. Is that what we're calling it? 28. Thank you, Ms. Payton. What used to be the Custer Street Festival is coming back as the Main Street Festival. There's a new bakery open on Main Street. Button Bakery. I can keep going. Tapestry Station is, for the most part, fully occupied.
just go.
What? What else? The Custer project is still moving forward. Will be a nice big boost to the TIF revenue when that gets done.
Good job, man.
All right.
I did. Yeah, that's the last thing I was doing.
Time to receive it.
The guitar store is still there. The rock shop is still there. The wine goddess is
All
open.
right, great point. We'll reconvene. So the amendment that should be in front of all of you from Councilmember Burns replaces that sentence with no consultants are to be hired if the property is not disposed of or an RFP is not selected within 7 months. And should that occur, then this item would return to council for further consideration. That was a motion made by Councilmember Burns and seconded by Councilmember Iles.
So it's selected, and then, because again, that's going, Newsma, what you were saying about what we can control. So it's, we've decided that you are selected, can't control if they accept it. So we've decided you're selected, giving a little bit more time in a month, and then allowing us to come back to council to discuss what we do from there, if we need to.
Would the clerk please take the roll on this proposed amendment?
Councilmember Iles?
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
All right.
Councilmember Sufferton?
No.
Councilmember Davis?
No.
Councilmember Rogers?
No.
Councilmember Hadakatis?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
No.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
With 5 voting in favor and 4 voting against, the motion carries, and Resolution 54-R-25 is amended as just described. So the number 6 is bumped up to 7, and then should that 7-month, the thing that's got to happen is the selection of an RFP, and then if that criterion is triggered by an RFP not being selected, then the item comes back to council for further consideration at that time. Now that that discussion's been exhausted, will the clerk please take the roll on Resolution 54-R-25 as again amended.
Councilmember Iles?
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Suffredin?
No.
Councilmember Davis?
No.
Councilmember Rogers?
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
No.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
With 6 voting in favor and 3 voting against, the motion carries, and Resolution 54-R-25 as amended is adopted. Now on item A11, Councilmember Suffredin, would you care to make a motion relative to rule suspension?
Yes, I move that we suspend the rules for introduction and action for Ordinance 44-025, amending Section 10-11-5D, Schedule V, or 5 if you prefer, of the Evanston City Code, four-way stops at Ewing and Harrison.
Second. Councilmember Suffredin moves suspension of Rule 20.1 to allow that Ordinance 44-0-25 be introduced and acted upon in one evening. Councilmember Harris seconds. Will the clerk please take the roll on the motion to suspend the rule?
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Suffredin?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers?
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion receives the required unanimous support and is passed, so that Rule 20.1 is suspended and this ordinance may be introduced and acted upon tonight. Now, Councilmember Suffredin, do you have a motion?
Yes, I move item A11, which is a four-way stop at Ewing and Harrison Street.
Second.
Councilmember Suffredin moves passage of Ordinance 44-0-25. Councilmember Harris seconds. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Iles?
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Suffredin?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers?
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries, and Ordinance 44-0-25 is adopted. Now on item ED1, Councilmember Burns, I believe, do you have a motion?
Yeah, move approval of ED1 financial assistance of up to $82,510 to Free Flow Kitchen for TIF eligible leasehold improvements.
Second.
Councilmember Burns moves approval of this financial assistance. Councilmember Harris seconds. Will the clerk please take the roll? Oh, sorry. I have to tell you, the lights. So, just for those of you in the audience, the new system here is like you like 100% feel like you're flying a spaceship, which is cool, but also the light on color and the light off color are really similar to each other, which is why I miss lights sometimes. So I apologize for that and appreciate the gentle correction. Councilmember Suffredin, followed by Davis.
Yeah, I had a question, and I don't know if Paul, if you're the correct person, but how do we arrive at this interest rate and this amount of forgivability? Or are you already engaged in the 801 main thing because you know the clock's ticking?
I don't know if I want to answer. I actually was doing some 801 work as soon as you, but I've already introduced myself, Economic Development Manager. The interest rate was an attempt to acknowledge that the business is an MWEBE-owned business, and it's located in Census Tract 8092. We're trying to inspire development, so try to make it generally in the range of that kind of 3% where
It's lower than the EIDL that SBA is
Correct.
offering. So
That's correct.
It's
This
a
is
favorable
not-
interest rate, for sure.
Yeah, this is.
How about the forgiveness threshold?
Can I yield to Councilmember Burns on that? I mean, generally speaking, we try to align the total funding from the TIF on the grant portion of it to be 25% of the total project cost, which is generally our rule of thumb when it comes to public investment from a TIF. So the total project cost, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but 25% of that aligned with the.
Okay, because the forgivable part is 45,
Right.
which says here 25%. So
So the idea there is in a typical TIF grant scenario, We don't do a lot of, we've done maybe 2 or 3 loans in my entire tenure here. Typically, we do TIF loans or TIF grants, and the maximum, we try to stay in that range of 25%. So the total project cost on this was 182. 25% of that would have been the 45,000. There was still a need for additional funding. Councilmember Burns had the idea of weaving this into a loan, and that's how we came up with the loan balance.
Okay, so I guess, Councilmember Burns, how do we come up with the forgivable amount, and how do we come up with the interest rate? Is that you? Is that Paul?
No, sorry, I thought I'll try.
Yeah, I mean,
so the forgivable portion of it, if we were just going to be strict on a TIF grant, and we didn't want to do any other additional funding, we would have capped out at that 45,628.
Okay, and this isn't equipment. This is a fixture.
This is a leasehold improvement. It's
Right,
it's a hood, which is super expensive.
So ideally, it benefits the current business, but it ultimately benefits the owner of the building.
Yeah, I mean, it does, sure. I mean, it benefits, if the current owner rents to another restaurant in the future, yes. If they rent to something else, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Davis.
I wanted to make an amendment that the loan be personally liable, made personally liable for the persons taking it out, and that none of it be forgivable. Partially because I do think that we have to do something to make up for the appearance, I guess, of the co-founder being on the 5/5 TIFs advisory board, and to at least, I don't know, add a little bit to our loan requirements in order to balance out how the appearances of that look. That's it. So I'm making an amendment, personally liable, completely, none of it forgivable, if anyone wants a second.
I'll second that.
So the council will stand at ease as well. The amendment is reduced to writing.
Did
love
Councilmember Nusma have any more updates on Main Street?
I was gonna ask Councilmember Burns for some highlights on what's going on in his neighborhood.
I mean, Councilmember Burns is next, so let's. Councilmember Davis, are you okay with Councilmember Burns speaking while you're working on the draft?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, Councilmember Burns.
Yeah, I'd like to. I've talked to Councilmember Davis about this. The personal guarantee is definitely something that I would support. Would not support making it none of it forgiven. I think again the types of grants that we're working on, both for home rehab, which Ms. Payton has been a part of our meetings about home rehab. I think grants are generally more supported than loans. I think the reason why I encouraged us to look at a loan is to try to keep it to that 25%, which, mind you, I think we've rarely achieved that. I think oftentimes this body, if not this body, previous bodies have approved grants that exceeded the 25%. So this was me trying to work with staff to really create a new standard, one in which we stick to the 25%. And that's how the loan came about. In terms of the interest rate, I think there was another loan that came that we looked at that was 2.5%. So there was another business that the city has loaned money to, and the interest rate was 2.5%. So from my conversation with Paul, I think that's where the 3% came from, is an adjustment because that loan was given probably well over a year ago. And so I believe that's how the 3% came up. And, the only other thing I'll say is, we passed when we approved the TIF, we passed a resolution kind of highlighting our commitments, and I'll send that around. But on page 2, it says business district improvements, including facade upgrades, leaseholds improvements like HVAC, plumbing, and electrical systems, and streetscape improvements. So this request is consistent with what this body said that we wanted to use these funds for. And I think what I'm trying to do, absent kind of a more formal process, which we're going to start working on, we just finished up, the 5/5 TIF committee just finished up the developing a home rehab grant. We're going to go out to the community and have them weigh in on it before we send it here. But absent of that kind of more formal process, I wanted to make sure we can establish a precedent today that can be sustained, which again, that's why the grant is structured as also a loan. That's why the repayment period is not 10 years, which we typically do, and it's 5 years to try to match it closer to the lease, which is 3 years. And then I also was going to make a amendment. I think we should have, because it's a startup business, I was going to make an amendment that we have a mandatory mentorship program. It'll take some time to kind of identify how that will work. We're supposed to have one already, but so that's something I would like to see. And again, I think the personal guarantee makes total sense.
So we have the amendment from Councilmember Davis in our inboxes. I would just flag that this situation reminds us of the importance of the rule rewrite that we have before us, a vote with no resolution. We're just like voting on a concept. It seems not great. So it's a little hard for the amendment to just amend a concept. Not your fault at all, of course, Councilmember Davis. We'll make do, but just as we're going through the arduous process of working through all of our rules from beginning to end, this is why there's just still significant tightening up of our legislative process that needs to occur in this body. Does everybody who needs the amendment have it in their inbox at this time? And they should, I believe. She said she followed up by sending it to you. Thank you for the follow-up email, Councilmember Davis. Is there a discussion on the amendment? Councilmember Rogers.
So if, in the case where the loan would be, the owner, or not the owner, but the business owner would be personally liable for the loan. If that were not in place, what would be the options of the city if there were a default on that portion of the loan? I mean, this is for something that's being built into a building. So would we put a lien on the property? What would be the process there?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Rogers. You're identifying one of the challenges with this type of situation where it's already, you can't take black iron out of a building, so it stays there. You could do a lien on the property. We've done a uniform commercial code attachments with the recorder of deeds. The issue is clawing it back. How do you claw it back if somebody's out of money or bankrupt? There's 3 other people standing in line to collect whatever debts are due. So it's challenging. It's one of the, in a case like this, we frankly, because it's in a TIF district, it's in, again, 8092 MWBE, we're willing to take that risk. It's an investment in the building. It results in a restaurant that somebody else can now come in and take over and operate. It's not a satisfactory answer, I know, but that's how we view these in the past. I just wanted to know what the
option was.
It's very limited.
If that was the case. Okay, thank you.
At this time, no one is requesting to speak for a first time, so we go back to Councilmember Burns with 2 minutes left.
I just also want to add that, and I can kind of find it if we need to, but we asked Corporation Counsel at the time, I can't remember exactly who was in that appointment at the time, whether or not there was any conflict of interest with people who either live or have businesses sitting on the committee. And at the time, and I can share this, they felt like because it is advisory, there's no final action that committee takes, that it wouldn't be an issue. There was, I've heard somebody say that I used to work with say it's not a conflict, it's a confluence of interest. We thought that that there would be some benefit as we try to advise the committee, that we have people that live in the area, that have businesses in the area, advising as how best to use the funds to kind of uplift this area. And so again, we saw that as an advantage to have people that are homeowners in the area, that live in the area, that work in the area, to be on the committee. Before this was established, again, I asked for a Corporation Counsel to weigh in on it, and and they gave the nod to say that there wouldn't be an issue. The 5/5 committee also hasn't voted on this yet. That's still something that they don't necessarily have to do it in the way this was designed, but I am going to bring this to them. It's the same as the case with us. Like, if there is a conflict, you recuse, right? You just don't participate in the discussion. You're not in the room, and you don't vote on it. And so that's the case. That's how it would be handled up here, and that's how it'll be. Any conflict will be handled in the 5/5 committee as well.
Will the clerk please take the roll on the motion to amend that was made by Councilmember Davis?
Councilmember Iles?
No.
Councilmember Newsma?
No.
Councilmember Burns?
No.
Councilmember Sufferton?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers?
No.
Councilmember Hadakaris?
No.
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
Councilmember Harris?
No.
With 3 voting in favor and 6 voting against, the motion does not carry. I want to be clear about something. I got some text. My comment about the rules was not, I think Councilmember Davis handled the situation perfectly. I just think it's awkward that we as a council are put in a position of potentially making a motion to amend a memo rather than to amend a resolution or ordinance. So I think you handled it as best you could, but I think it puts all of us in a strange position not to have a specific resolution to amend in a circumstance like this. So
I am working on a amendment. But this will
does anybody have any kind of tour guide-esque narratives to share with the community while the next amendment is drafted? Councilmember Harris.
Yes, so I see that the business owners are here, and I'd like to respect that they came to have them come to the podium.
Hello, council people. Nicole Pinkert, owner, but this is really the owner, Shanita Wade.
And I'm Nina Wade.
Thank you. One thing we want to address is, building a business, why didn't we understand this before? And I think in the materials we sent, can you give this to them? We shared the architectural drawings. And if you look on the last page, you'll see what happened as the work was getting done, all the steel wrap was up. We took down a grate. And if you look on the page before the last page, you'll see that there was fire, the drywall had been in fire. Now, because it's an existing hood, had we not touched it, we had the choice to put the grate back up, keep going, and then had we had a fryer there or anything else, a fire could have happened. But the minute you touch it, according to standards, you have to bring it up. And so really the cost is not for any of the internal work. You see how the work we've done is to run based on the city requirements, is to run it's the black iron inside, which we would have been prepared to do, but it's to run black iron underneath the carport up the side of the building to the top of the building. That is the cost. It's if you see in the prior images, the exhaust was directly out to the back of the building. So when we inquired it, we thought change will be fine. We'll do this. It's the cost to bring it up to today's code. But just see that picture, what was there. A lot of resources from the city went into that business. That was a fire that was burning every time that fryer was going. So we believe in healthiness, and we're like, well, we have to touch it. But again, we don't own the building, and so we're just looking for support to make sure that there's a healthy place in that place, regardless of what comes, whether we plan on being there, but there's a new building coming there, so a breakfast, lunch place right across the street that's healthy, we think is worthy of support. Yeah, talk about the menu. You talk about your restaurant.
So the restaurant is a breakfast, lunch, and eventually brunch. I cannot do brunch right now in the way in which I want it to, which would require me to have a stove and that I don't have right now. Currently, I'm working with a panini press to create breakfast sandwiches, also lunch sandwiches, as well as fresh salads and soups as well. For me, going forward, this would make a bigger contribution to the community if I were able to expand my menu during the week as well as the weekend to make things that some community members are used to me making. With some private events I've had, I can't do those things or those items at the current state of the kitchen. So I'm asking that you all support this so I can be able to not only do my menu in the way in which I want to do it, but also give the community what they want and what they know and which I can be able to do for them.
So we've all received a motion from Councilmember Burns replicating part of Councilmember Davis's motion to add a personal guarantee requirement for the applicants, and additionally to make enrolling in a business mentorship program mandatory. Is there a second to that motion? All right, so Councilmember Burns makes the motion just described. Councilmember Nusma seconds. At this time, no one is asking to speak for, all right, so this time no one's asking to speak for the first time, so we go back to, at this point, Councilmember Iles is asking to speak for the first time.
I just wondered if Councilmember Burns can explain a personal guaranteed requirement.
It's, I don't know if you want to explain how, Councilmember, how you feel about it. I want to establish that first before I weigh in.
So basically, the way that the loan is currently structured is we would be giving it to there, which I assume is going to be an LLC. So if they go out of business and they can't pay back the loan, then we just won't get anything because presumably the business will have no assets. They don't own the building, so we can't put a lien against the building. And it'd be really hard for us to try to recover from the objects in the building as well. So instead what this says is that the individuals themselves would have to pay us from their personal capacity, where otherwise we would not be able to get it from them personally. The business and the individuals are separate entities, so by making them personally liable, we're saying that the individuals and the business are responsible for the loan as opposed to just the business.
Thank you.
But, Alex also could have.
You said it perfectly.
Okay, at this time, no one is asking to speak for a first time, so we go back to Councilmember Rogers with 4:30 left.
I don't intend to speak on the amendment. If you would like to clear the amendment first.
Councilmember Suffredin, were you expecting to speak on the amendment?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I
So we'll go
understand.
back to Councilmember Suffredin with 4:20 left.
So the personal guarantee is for the $36,883. The forgivable remains at $45,628. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, I think so,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that is okay.
Correct.
Right, that's what you want.
Well, the forgivable loan too will come with its own conditions as well. So it's not like, I think that's and I don't know if Paul, you can speak to this, but it would roll off, a little bit will roll off each year. So it just wouldn't be all be forgiven up front. There still will be some conditions that need to be met in order for that to be forgiven. So it could be more than.
Sure. So in the loan contract, including the forgivable portion of it, we will have a burn-off period for the forgivable portion. I thought we indicated that in the memo. It might have been a 5-year. I might be mistaken on that. But so just if we're going to do a 5-year burn-off, then it's 20% a year that forgivable part dissipates.
But, I mean, I want to make sure I understand, and I presume you want to definitely make sure you understand what you're personally guaranteeing. So the personal guarantee is for the entire amount?
No.
I guess what I'm saying is that if they do something, if they don't meet the conditions, which I don't know if that, I think that, we still
But
need
just
to.
be in business?
develop what the conditions are, it's possible that some of it could be forgiven. There's still a remaining that's not forgiven because they violated one of the conditions. And so in that circumstance, they would be, responsible for whatever the remaining, part that was going to be forgiven plus the loan, the loan with the interest rate is the way I understand how we would do this.
So if we were to go out of business in year one, then we would be responsible for the 46, let's say 36,000 of that plus the 35,000 that you've given us a loan for. Is
So
that,
again,
is that what you? I think that's
Paul
what
in
you-
this because I want this to be consistent. So the way
I'm
we've
not saying
done
yes.
this,
I'm saying asking
the
for
way we've thought about this in the past, because I thought this was already, we've done forgivable loans before. So how would we treat a situation like that in the past?
Sure. So remember, we don't do many loans, right? So if we're talking about forgivable loans, the forgivable loan almost equals grant, right? Not even quite sure how to define the difference. Maybe Councilmember Davis has a really tight definition for that. But even if it was a grant or a forgivable loan, we have a period of time that we want to manage the project, usually 5 years, and we take it down 20% a year. If for whatever reason the business fails or whatever happens, we could set up clawback provisions. I don't know what those would be. Like if we're going to have like a local hiring standard, et cetera, and they don't meet those standards, then they have to pay it back, right? But after a 5-year period, it just dissipates. If they fail in the first year, they owe us 80%, right? Or that second year. Because if you have a 5-year, we're on a 5-year term, 20% a year.
The question that I think Councilmember Suffren is asking is if that requirement you just described gets triggered, is it covered by the personal liability in this amendment?
The idea of the personal liability or the personal guarantee has just come up. I mean, we're literally building a contract at the dais.
No, I know, that's what I.
So speaking of that very point, I want to recognize Councilmember Newsma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Speaking of that very point, it seems like we're getting, kind of close to an answer here, but we're talking about some very, very important details that it's just inappropriate to kind of make up on the fly here and think we have had time to get them right and contemplate them and vote on it tonight. So I think it would make sense to maybe finish this conversation, but then table this until our next meeting to allow those details to be worked out satisfactorily. And then maybe it can come back to us in the form of a resolution so we can solve that problem too. And then we'll be in a much better place to take final action at our next meeting. So if that sounds good, I will make that motion.
I don't know that I ever gave up my time. Okay. I just want to, all right. That may be a good suggestion, but I just want to make sure I understand and I mean, I want to make sure I understand, but you're comfortable being personally liable for the 86,000? Yeah. I think it's really important that we all know what we're doing here.
To be honest, no, this is, it's a labor of love in a place that needed a lot of love. There's a lot of resources that have gone into this building by the city without putting care into it. We have no problems taking care of everything, but the hood, we asked for it to be grandfathered in. We would have replaced the hood. Let the exhaust go where it goes. It's only out there as someone who's fixing cars. It's the cost of running the exhaust all the way up the building. That to me, that is, we talk about city environment, is a thing that I feel is the city or the owner. To say we want to be, if we were to say we want to be 100% responsible for that, now I'm thinking of the price point of what I'm going to sell food for in the 5th Ward, where people have already said they come in there, I love your prices. These are things that we live here and we can eat. 86,000, 5 years, the cost of that on a sandwich, on a breakfast sandwich, just being honest, is going to make that a $25 sandwich, which isn't what we're in the business to do. So we can, I mean, you're the chef. 86,000 is just a lot to put in a building that we don't own. If anything, we can keep it as a coffee shop. I really feel it's important to turn it into a space. When we got into it, and all the the architects, no one said that that particular piece needed to be replaced. And 86,000 to just be personally, well, I mean, we're going to be successful, so I'm not worried about it in that sense. I'm not worried about that.
But I personally, I felt like the conversations that we've had with you and just sitting here, that was not what we had talked about of us being liable for $86,000. I'm not going to do that personally. We've invested well over $100,000 into a space that's not ours because we wanted to give something back. We live in that community. We feel like that space deserves to be there. And I can do a lot more things with $86,000 in terms of moving to another location. It does not have to be there. But with the support of you all, we thought we would be able to do this. And so if you all need to take more time on it, we've given you what we needed to give you to try to make this a sustainable, valuable business within the community. I'm willing to listen to something other than us being liable for $80-something thousand personally. That's just me.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
I have a question for Paul, if he can. Has there ever been any other case where we've made someone personally liable for a loan amount?
Again, we've rarely done these, and the answer, I can't recall any situations. We have, right now we have an outstanding loan with Good to Go. It was like $25,000, a small amount. There's no personal guarantee on that.
Yeah. Me personally, I mean, if we're doing and I will acknowledge that we have not always been like the best landlords, and we've been in situations where we probably should have been tougher with businesses that we're working with. But for me personally, if we have something that we're looking to prop businesses up and help them start, if we're in the business of trying to help people start out, I don't think we should be putting a personal liability on things. I know it's hard to, be in the restaurant business right now, and I'm looking at this as, a way for us to jumpstart a business and get something going in a neighborhood. So I'm supportive of that, and I will not be supporting making it a personal liability because people are already putting themselves on the line starting a small business. So.
At this time, no one is asking to speak for a first time, so we go back to Councilmember Rogers with 4.5 minutes left.
Thank you. I think that we have asked, when we were at economic development, there were a lot of questions that came up, some things we felt were incomplete. The owners have been very generous in making sure that we got all that information. The topic of personal liability never came up during that discussion. This is another example, I think, where we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants with each individual situation. 801 Main, here's this situation. We can't be making rules and changing expectations as we move through the process. If people feel that things need to be changed, then let's take the time to change those rules, but not while people are in the middle of a process, because these applicants have come to us under a certain expectation. And if it's not something we do very often, then let's figure out how we make some general rules on how to make that very often. But I think that this particular applicant has provided us with a lot of information as we asked for it, and I think we just kind of keep moving the goalpost on it, and I don't think that's fair to them, and I would not support having a personal liability on these loans.
Still no one is asking to speak for a first time, so we go to Councilmember Davis with 4:10 left.
I was wondering if we should move this back to committee. That's it. I'll make a motion for it. to see like if there's interest in moving it back to committee, but that was just it. So motion to move it back to Economic Development Committee.
I hate to say point of order, but I will. Is there not already a motion for an amendment on the floor?
There certainly is a motion to amend it on the floor. I can't
And a motion to
remember,
table.
is a motion to refer in order when a motion to amend is on the floor? I would also just, to continue our tradition of vamping this evening, I would say that, to Councilmember Rogers' point, the Economic Development Committee has discussed this and found that discussion satisfactory. So if, I do think negotiating novel terms of a loan on the fly at the dais is a mistake. I think if the goal is to delay so that orderly discussion can occur, I think it would make more sense personally to table and have that discussion between now and 2 weeks from now. But obviously that's just an opinion.
Who's in order? Because I got my thing on.
So we're waiting on a ruling from the Corporation Council.
Thank you, Mayor. There's nothing in our rules that specify whether a rule to refer to committee is in order or not. I don't see that.
That's a Robert's Rules question.
Oh, Robert.
If the motion to fails, then it passes tonight.
I see your point.
So I believe in,
All right, so let's just continue to stand at ease and actually do the correct procedure here.
Yeah, it's a subsidiary motion, so it's in order.
All right, so there was a motion made to refer this back to the Economic Development Committee. Is there a second? The motion.
I'll second or table, but since you did not motion to table, right? So then I'll second the,
I did not motion to table because if the motion to amend fails, then I'm prepared to take final action tonight.
I'd like to propose, just so that we're not continuing this, and we bring it back so that most people feel very comfortable with it, would you be amenable to tabling this for 2 weeks, Councilmember Davis, in lieu of sending it back to committee?
Sure. Do we just, yeah.
Okay.
Then I'll withdraw my motion.
All right, Councilmember Davis withdraws her motion to refer back to the Economic Development Committee. Okay, at this time, no one's asking to speak for a first time, so we go back to Councilmember Nusma for a second time with 4:40 left.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the motion on the table is Councilmember Burns' motion to include a requirement for a personal guarantee and to make business mentorship mandatory. That's what we should be talking about now. I suggest we call a vote on that, see where we end up, and then make the call whether we are prepared to move forward tonight or if it needs to if it needs more time to come back with appropriate language, then it would be appropriate to table.
At this time, no one's requesting to speak for a first or second time, so we go back to Councilmember Burns with 30 seconds left.
Yes, I just want to add when, I don't know where Paul is at. I think there he is. I don't know why I didn't see. Again, I was trying to make it consistent with how we would have treated forgivable loans in the past. I personally would be totally fine with just the loan portion, not the forgivable loan, but the one that comes with an interest rate being the only one that they're personally responsible for. All I'm saying is that if they, and the condition doesn't have to be if they close, it could be if they don't, pay the $600 or so a month that they owe, that could then trigger that the part of the loan would not be forgiven. But I want to make it clear. I think the way we've done things in the past, probably not the way I would support it. I'm going out for loans myself, government loans. A personal guarantee is not something that is unusual. That is very common, especially when it comes to loans at this, such a low interest rate. And so if it's trying to figure out like what that sweet spot is, like what the amount should be, then I think it makes sense to take some time to do that. But we've discussed this before that, we've done it in the 5/5 TIF committee that if, maybe we should have in the past put liens on property, right? And so what is that? That's saying that if you default on the loan, then we know we can try to get it from the property. Now, it's different here because they're a tenant and they don't own the property. A lot of these improvements, a lot of landlords, it's like these triple net leases, so they really feel like the tenant is responsible for them. And so if we can't do a lien on the property, what else can we do? A personal guarantee feels like what we can do with the tenant. And I am looking for something like that, if not a personal guarantee, something that says, okay, you're responsible for this, and you're dealing with the city. So we could come up with some very favorable long-term, we can renegotiate even and try to come up with something favorable if the business somehow fails in a year. But I do feel like we should start looking at these a little different. That's what I plan to advocate for on the 5/5 TIF committee. And so when a more formal process comes back, it is probably going to come back, if there's support on the committee, with things like liens and other things to make sure that we can get the money back if conditions are not met. And so the reason why this is here today is because there's an urgency around this issue. We can, if the applicants were okay with waiting until we finalize in a more formal business assistance program in committee, we could do that. We don't have the time for that, right? They're paying their lease. They need to be able to, they need a hood. They need to be able to fully utilize this space in the way that their plan called for. And so that's why we're here. So I just want to be clear. If that wasn't the case, we could take the time to do this in a different way. Okay. So that's all.
All right. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Oh, and I'll withdraw this for the tabling. If we're going to table to give it more time, it just depends on what you're going to do next.
So I think Councilmember Newsman indicated that he's happy to allow a vote to happen if the amendment doesn't pass. So if you want to withdraw the motion, then he's happy to let the vote happen anyways. Maybe someone else wants to table. I don't know. I can't speak for them. But I think what he was saying is, hey, an amendment that's kind of complicated should trigger a table so we can talk it over, make sure we understand what's going on, make sure the applicant understands what's going on before a final vote. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay. So you can.
I would make can I amend my own motion then to say the business assistance is business mentorship is important to me. Both are important to me, but if there's a vote to move forward today with just business mentorship and not the personal guarantee, I can do that. I could get behind that, knowing that there's a sense of urgency needed here.
All right, so why don't you Councilmember Burns withdraws his previous motion to amend and is about to make another motion to amend less dramatically than his previous one.
Mr. Mayor, can I speak about things going on in the neighborhoods? No, I'm kidding. If there is a vote to table, may I have 1 minute just to ask for some things that I would need to be prepared to come back in 2 weeks, if that is what the
I don't think
table
that's
is?
what's happening.
Just putting it out there just in case.
It would be great to also add, while we're waiting, filling time. We hire people from the neighborhood. The art on the walls is from young people. We've sold art, young Evanston folks, even some autistic young people who are artists. Their work has been on the wall. It's been purchased. 1% of our sales will go back to supporting out-of-school time organizations. We are going to do a foster senior club one Wednesday a month, the senior social for them. Also, we're going to make sure one Wednesday a month for out-of-school organizations, they can use the space for bringing community. So we're .org for a purpose. It's not just about making money, it's also about doing good in community. We particularly picked this location because it has historically been a food place and a home place in the Fifth Ward, and it's important that it stays. That. Trying to feel for you, Jonathan.
Mayor Bess, because Councilmember
Go
Burns
ahead.
removed his motion, the motion to table is now in order.
Right.
Okay.
Of course. You're in line. You're next in line.
I just sent it.
Okay. Councilmember Burns has moved to amend by requiring a mandatory enrollment in a business mentorship program by the applicants as a condition of receiving the funds. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Councilmember Iles seconds. I've got a couple people in line to speak, Councilmembers Davis and Kelly. Is either one of you speaking to this amendment?
No.
Okay. In that case, go ahead, Councilmember Kelly.
Could I make a subsidiary
I thought did we agree that the motion to table is in order during this or no?
I wasn't sure if you had recognized the prior motion to table, but if it was not recognized because there was a motion on the table and then Councilmember Burns had the floor again and there's a new motion.
It was never fully made last time, so there's no precedent established, but I would ask your view on whether it's actually in order.
It is not, now that there's a motion pending.
Okay. All right, so let's resolve the motion before us, and then we'll go to Councilmember Kelly, followed by Davis. Would the clerk please take the roll on the motion to amend, this time only by adding the requirement business mentorship program?
Councilmember Iles.
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferton.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries, and the business mentorship program requirement is added to the terms. Now, Councilmember Kelly.
So, and I have no doubt this is going to be a wonderful business. So just to be clear, I guess I just feel like we're ironing out a lot of details and we want to have some consistency in how we do this. And that's why I thought it would be better if we could just bring it back in 2 weeks with the amendment, and also just to like how we approach these going forward for future situations so that we are consistent. So with that, to bring this back fully fleshed out, I would move to table this, and so that any fine details can be addressed also, and any considerations given considering future projects so that we are consistent.
So I believe that was a motion to table this for 2 weeks. All right, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Kelly moves to table this item for 2 weeks to the June 23rd City Council meeting. Councilmember Davis seconds. I think that's not a debatable motion, right? Okay. Will the clerk please take the roll on the motion to table for 2 weeks?
Councilmember Iles.
No.
Councilmember Newsma.
No.
Councilmember Burns.
No.
Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
No.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Nope.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
No.
With 3 voting in favor and 6 voting against, the motion does not carry and the item is not tabled. But Councilmember Kelly, you still have the floor if you want it. Are you?
No, that's fine.
At this time, no one is asking to speak for a first time, so we go back to Councilmember Davis, who has. At this time, no one's asking to speak for a first or second time, so we go back to Councilmember Davis, who has 3 minutes and 50 seconds left.
Yeah, so I was only willing to vote in favor of this if it was fully non-forgivable and personally, and if they were personally liable, largely because, I looked at the business plan. I want to support minority-owned businesses. I understand that this area needs economic development, but I saw, I am fairly confident we're not going to get this money back based on the estimates we were given. And it also does not give me confidence that they're not willing to make themselves personally liable on a $100,000, let's say $80,000 loan over the course of 5 years. So this is $15,000 a year. When I looked at the business plan, they didn't give estimates for how much they pay their employees. So even if I assumed minimum wage and we added payroll taxes, their conservative estimate had them at a deficit of 2% per year. And that's just me adding in two different things. In addition to that, as I mentioned, I do not think that their business plan was fleshed out. I assumed that they had this information when I made the recommendation that this go to City Council and that they would provide it to us. I don't know if you all looked at their business plan, but there are just numbers missing where it just says 37 hours, 40 hours, blah, blah, blah. And so we're sitting here and they're not even confident they're going to pay us back. Because if they were, they would have said, yeah, we'll be personally liable. No big deal. We have confidence in our business. And so, if we're just going to give the money away and we think that it's a capital investment in the building, sure. But this is weird. This is not how we should be. Honestly, that's just it. That's it. That's all I have to say about it.
At this time, no one is requesting to speak for the first time, so we go back to Councilmember Harris with 4:55 left.
Thank you so much. I'm confident that they will do their best. They cannot make us come to the restaurant and buy food, but I came there opening day, and there's enthusiasm around this restaurant. We're dealing with people that came to the community that have only poured into our community. We're dealing with somebody who just got elected to District 65's board, who's here and invested, has many, many community ties. One of the D9 members who, our word is very important to us in the community because we represent more than ourselves. So I am really ready to move forward. I am disappointed that we would throw, as Councilmember Rogers said, things just at the last minute at somebody who is minority, women-based, investing in the community at the last minute, some things like, well, let's do this and let's do that. So I am ready to move forward with the newest amendment. So I move that we vote with the newest amendment to make this happen.
Would the clerk please take the roll? Just to reiterate, this is the original item in the packet with the addition of one requirement, namely the enrollment in a business mentorship program.
Councilmember Iles?
Yes.
Councilmember Nusma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns? Councilmember Suffredin? Councilmember Davis?
No.
Councilmember Rogers?
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
No.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
With 6 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries, and the assistance is approved with the one additional item that was added by amendment. Now on item FB1, is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I will move item FB1, which is Ordinance 40025, authorizing the city manager to amend the total fiscal year 2024 budget.
Second.
Councilmember Nusma moves approval of Ordinance 40-0-25. Councilmember Harris, I believe, seconds. Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. I just sent an amendment to this, and I'm going to try to avoid getting into too much esoteric, complicated talk, but I've sent an amendment forward to amend the ordinance to revise the 2024 budget amount from $438 million to $408 million, as seen in your emails, and then that aligns it with our correct 2024 budget amount as stated in our latest 2025 budget document, and then shifting the amended total to $369 million. And I have communicated with Luke Stowe about this prior. And if you want, I can go into what this is all about. Okay, so the difference of and you can check my math on this, but the difference of about $30,161,390 reflects the expenses paid from the public safety pension trust funds, those fiduciary funds, which were not expenses that we paid. Those were taken out because they shouldn't have been there in the first place, so those are now removed. Like if you go to our 2025 adopted budget and you look at the 2024 budget, that was corrected. So it's been corrected in our latest budget document to reflect that amount that I sent. It just didn't make it onto this particular amendment. So it shouldn't have been there in the first place. We don't do that now in the 2025 budget. We are not adding in the public safety pension expenses from this trust fund as our own. We did it in 24, but again, it was corrected. The 2024 document, the 2024 budget amount was corrected in our 2025 budget. So you can see that those numbers, there's a discrepancy. I didn't want to go into all that. I emailed Luke about it, but there's a big discrepancy between what we state as our adopted budget amount in our 2024 adopted budget versus the 2025, and this brings that into alignment. It doesn't change anything, but it corrects this so that we're correctly stating the correct 2024 budget amount instead of $438 million, which counts, again, the private, or whatever you want to call it, the fiduciary public safety trust fund expenses. It removes those because those were not our expenses. Those are the funds, the money paid out to retirees, to the widowers, to the Quildros, and all the expenses and fees. Those we didn't pay. So, Luke, right, this is what you said. You ran this by staff and just said to amend. I was going to hold it, but I haven't talked to anybody, and it is somewhat complicated. But this amount, there is this discrepancy. If nobody wants to hold this, second the amendment, then I just simply won't vote for it. But because we have a discrepancy in what we're listing as our budget amounts for 24, because we inappropriately, or whatever you want to say, we added in trust fund expenses that are not ours. We didn't do that for 25, and that's the good news. We stopped doing that. And it was corrected in the 25 budget, the 24 total. So we have two different amounts listed in our budget documents. Our latest budget document lists our 2024 budget total at $408,254,820. That's the number we should be using here, and that's.
The motion fails for lack of a second.
Okay.
Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Iles.
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
No.
Councilmember Harris.
With 7 voting in favor and 1 voting against, the motion carries and ordinance 40-0-25 is adopted. Now we come to call of the wards. Councilmember Iles.
I've got my first ward meeting tomorrow at Lincoln School, 6 p.m. It's going to be mostly focused on the Lot 1 project. I've got regular office hours, first Thursday of the month at Brothers K, 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., and third Monday of the month at Hoosier Mama's, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Councilmember Newsma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Office hours were originally scheduled for Saturday, June 14th, 10 a.m. I have a family conflict at that time, so I am moving office hours to Monday, June 16th, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock a.m. at Berry Pike Cafe. And the July ward meeting will be Tuesday, July 1st, 7 p.m. at Robert Crown, and it looks like the 801 Main Street project will be on the agenda for that ward meeting. Looking forward to seeing you all there.
Councilmember Burns.
Just on the last thing, I just want to say that there were conversations with Free Flow Kitchen about both the personal guarantee and on the small business mentorship. that piece was not a surprise to them. If it were on the whole amount, that would have been a surprise, but not what I was recommending. And it got a little weird up here, and I didn't even know if that would pass together, which is why I kind of pulled back. But as they confirmed in the hallway, they understood that. They were more than comfortable doing that on the 30-some thousand or whatever would have come with the interest rate. Sometimes I think we just need to calm down up here. We're working with businesses to better understand what they can do. Next time, please just let us do our work so we can, because I do think that was important. And so I just asked for a little bit of, just let us work the process, give us a little bit of more time to explain things, because we could have got that on there. They understood it. They were prepared to accept that, and I wish we would have done it. All right.
Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis.
Bobby, was your mentorship still involving Backlot Coffee?
They already have a relationship with Patrick Hughes from Firehouse.
Okay.
So I was going to, figure out what we can do with that, or staff is going to figure that out.
Then part of my call of the wards is to thank Patrick Hughes and John Kim from Backlot and Firehouse Grill for offering to offer their mentorship services to
Pat Fowler, just want to say that's Pat Fowler. Patrick Hughes, great guy too.
Pat Fowler, yeah.
Sorry, I thought so too, but okay. Pat Fowler and John Kim for accepting the request to mentor Free Flow Kitchen. And I have a joint ward meeting with Councilwoman Kelly on June 12th, 7 to 8:30 p.m. And I have office hours on June 24th.
Councilmember Davis. Rogers.
I want to thank Councilmember Nusma for hosting the Little World Cafe on the comp plan. I will be holding one of those as soon as I get a date with staff, but probably in the in the period between when we first talk about it here at council and our second meeting at council. So look for that. And also for those residents of the 8th Ward, we have a message board up and running, evanston8.org, where you can communicate concerns, issues, as well as sharing ideas about what we should be doing in the ward, and if you need a plumber, who to reach out to find out who your neighbors use for a plumber. So thank you.
Councilmember Hadakatis.
9th Ward meeting next Monday, the 16th at the Prieto Community Center from 6 to 8. The July 9th Ward meeting is going to be rescheduled. There's a conflict with a city council meeting. I as well will have a special board meeting to discuss zoning and the comp plan sometime in July. Be on the lookout for that upcoming date.
Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. So joint 1st and 7th Ward meeting, June 12th, this Thursday at 7 p.m. That's a virtual meeting. And also the NU City Committee meeting will be this Wednesday, June 11th at 5 o'clock in council chambers. Thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
June 17th, 2nd Ward meeting, 7 p.m. at Crown. That's it. Thanks.
Councilmember Nusma.
Pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statutes 120/2C, I move that the City Council convene into executive session to discuss agenda items regarding litigation. These agenda items are permitted subjects to be considered in executive session and are enumerated exceptions under the Open Meetings Act. Those exceptions are enumerated in 5 ILCS 120/2C, Section 11.
Second.
Councilmember Newsom moves that the City Council resolve itself into an executive session to discuss the item just enumerated. Councilmember Harris seconds. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Iles?
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma? Councilmember Burns? Councilmember Sufferton? Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers? Councilmember Hadakatis?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly? Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries. And at 9:49 p.m., the City Council resolves itself into an executive session to begin immediately in the council library.